Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and I have a guest here today. I have Mr. Tom Joliffe. He is a screenwriter and producer of a new gothic horror film going into production, The Baby in the Basket. Tom, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Trav.
Good, man. Good, good. So, thank you for coming. Now, I do want to ask you. So, tell us a little bit about The Baby in the Basket.
Yeah, uh, basically, it's an old school gothic horror. We're kind of inspired by films of like the 60s and 70s. So, very much inspired by stuff like Rosemary's Baby, The Omen, things like that. The Shining as well. So, we wanted to do something quite old school, bit throwback. So, basically, it all starts when this baby is left at the doorstep convent in a remote convent in the Scottish Highlands, um, and then it all kind of goes off from there. So one of the nuns starts to think that this baby could be the spawn of Satan, and then everything kind of builds up from there. And as normal with horror films, it goes a bit crazy by the end.
I can imagine. I can imagine. And you're in production right now. Um, is there a release date you're looking at?
We're shooting next month, so mid-September we're shooting, and we're probably hoping for maybe release is probably going to be around 2025, I would think.
25.
Bit of a period in post, and then we'll be sort of taking it to markets and film festivals and things. So yeah, probably 2025, hopefully in the year.
And who are some actors and actresses that you have cast for the movie?
Yeah, so we've most recently we've cast Marion Darbo, who was in The Living Daylights. We've also got Paul Barber. British fans will probably know him from The Full Monty. They just had the new series out on Disney Plus as well. Um, and we've got Amber Doig-Thorne as well, who was in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And just like a good cast of rising kind of British actresses. Um, yes, we're very excited to get working with everyone in the cast.
And Tommy, you've been in the film game for a long time. I mean, you worked with Danny Trejo, you worked with some pretty big names. How long have you been in the industry?
So probably it's been about 10 years now. I started off with short films, kind of progressed into features. I think like a lot of writers trying to break into indie films, it tends to be that it's kind of a good gateway, um, because it's selling at the moment in the indie market. Um, like Tubi is pretty much full of horror, and that's a big market at the moment. So yeah, it's features has been about 5 years now. And yeah, last year I had quite a big film called Renegades with Danny Trejo in, Lee Majors. So yeah, that was quite a highlight because the last few films I've had some quite big names. Uh, like for me as a fan, really, because first and foremost, I'm a big movie fan.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually met Danny Trejo a couple of years ago, and
Yeah.
he's an intimidating looking guy, but you meet him in person, he is the nicest teddy bear you will ever meet.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've heard. Yeah, yeah, myself. Um, I didn't get to meet him, sad. They shot that portion, so Renegades was filmed in the UK, most of it. They did a few pickup shots in the States. So yeah, Danny was on that part of the shoot. And one of the other actors was over there with him to shoot, so it kind of all pieced together. But yeah, I mean, he's got a really good reputation for being a really nice guy, so that doesn't surprise me.
Now, do you think with the huge influx in streaming services, as a UK filmmaker, producer, screenwriter, do you think with streaming services it's made it easier for a UK filmmaker to show their work now to um, film bureaus in the United States and so forth?
Yeah, I think it has really, because I think the UK industry at the moment is really quite difficult. There's not really too many opportunities sort of between the really big budget stuff and the indie filmmakers, sort of micro budget filmmakers. There's not really much in the middle. So you're either doing something really cheap, scraping pennies together, or it's, you're one of the lucky ones who's on a really big kind of budget production. The UK, we're focusing a bit more on TV, I think, and streaming shows rather than film. But I think also in terms of distribution, what I've found is most of my audience is an American audience. One of the most difficult territories to sell for my films certainly has always been the UK. It's the one that's the most difficult to kind of chalk off the list, because there's so few distributors, and they don't really want to pay anything for films at the moment. So everything is kind of like targeted towards the US. So that's where people make most of their money. That's where they might get a buyout or a minimum guarantee on their film. But I think UK distribution is really difficult. So maybe 5-10 years ago, you would have seen so many films from British filmmakers catered towards just British audiences. So lots of crime films, football hooligan films. You still see a few of those, but they're the really top, like really well-established ones. There's a series of films called the Foot Soldiers series. There's about 7 or 8 films. So they still tend to kind of do well, but they've gone right down in terms of the number of films that are being made, because if you're catering just to the UK audience, you're not going to make any money. So you have to think kind of internationally, really, and particularly looking at attracting the US market.
Okay. Is there a big market in Asia? I hear that Asia is pretty big when it comes to the film industry audience.
I think it's definitely a rising market, and certainly like the sort of Southeast Asia markets are kind of rising at the moment as well. You're seeing a lot more Thai films, Vietnamese films, Indonesian as well. I've recently signed on to do a Singaporean horror film. So I'm writing one that's being targeted mostly towards the Asian markets, which is quite interesting, really. There's definitely a lot of crossovers in between, what we like in the West and what they like in the East. But you can see, there's different cultural differences which kind of make things interesting. So, I mean, the film I'm writing is all based on like Asian folklore. And I love horror anyway, so it's quite interesting to do something that's from, kind of like Asian folklore.
Yeah, I'm a huge horror fan. I watch horror movies all across the world, but the Asian culture is right now, they're killing it when it comes to horror. They definitely are putting out better than the US, which is whoa. Like they are putting out top-notch horror movies.
Yeah, I think definitely. Yeah, I mean, like Japan's sort of having a bit of a comeback at the moment, because they've obviously had those really sort of memorable periods like The Ring and things like that. Then it dipped off a bit, but they're kind of on the way back. Korea has been really knocking it out of the park in almost every genre, really. So
And music and everything. Yeah.
yeah, they're killing it at the moment. I'm just, I love watching Korean films, and then a lot of the shows, obviously as well. Like everyone's seen Squid Game.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so yeah, no, it's really interesting at the moment, and then seeing what they're coming up with in places like Vietnam and Thailand as well, because they're kind of burgeoning markets on the rise at the moment. So they're just starting to get a wider audience around the world rather than just their own.
So when time does come for your movie to be distributed, are you looking more at towards the streaming services? 'Cause, I mean, it seems like
Uh,
horror directors are they're definitely more heading towards the streaming service route.
I think oftentimes there's almost no other choice because um, even today I read that Disney are cancelling. They're basically stopping all physical media in Australia. Um, so they're not producing, DVDs and Blu-rays over there. Physical media is just like really difficult at the moment to. It's just about clinging on in the US. The UK, it's almost kind of died out. So, I always love physical media. I love being able to sort of get
Me
a
too.
physical copy of one of my films. Sometimes you almost have to do sort of, they're either made on demand or, I know one filmmaker who had to sort of, he had to agree to, front any losses if, the distributor put out the DVDs and it didn't make any money or lost a load of money. So, yeah, it's tough. Streaming, I think, we would like ideally to get on one of the main horror streamers. So something like Shudder. And then, going beyond that, I think longer term, something like Tubi and AVOD would be good as well, because that seems to be where a lot of micro budget filmmakers are making a lot of their money now is on AVOD.
Hmm. Yeah, I interviewed a week or two ago Richard Mansfield from the UK. He did the movies. His new movies out, 13 Sherwood, and he was telling me that his movies are streaming on Tubi, but they don't even have Tubi in the UK.
No, I've heard that they might be getting it, but it's stayed as a rumor at the moment, so that it's not really gone through anywhere. We have something similar called Freevee, which is like it's Amazon's advertising
Yeah, that
kind of
too.
platform, but it doesn't have anything like the same kind of traction that Tubi seems to have in the US, and Vudu and things. So Tubi might come over to the UK at some point. It's whether or not it has anything like the popularity it does in the US at the moment.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've been a Tubi fan since the beginning, years ago, before it became a big thing, and you can go on there for free, and I'm a huge indie film watcher. What is horror, comedy, whatever. I mean, I like the big budget things too, but like the movies too. But like, I do love a good indie movie, something where you can see that the passion from the filmmaker is still there.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the same. I think also sometimes, if you look at something like Disney, for example, they've got such a big grip on like the big mainstream things, and then a lot of their stuff is quite interchangeable. It becomes a little bit like factory output. So if you go on Tubi, you kind of like randomly pick something, and it's a little bit different, or it can be a little bit different.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's also nice to sit down and watch a 90-minute movie, because a lot of the ones on Tubi that indie filmmakers have made, they've kind of specifically made them to be 80 or 90 minutes, and then most of the stuff in the cinema now is like 2.5, 3 hours. Yeah, so if you want to watch something that's quite lethal and over and done with quite quickly, it's a good option. I like to find a hidden gem somewhere as
I'm,
well.
I'm the same way. And also, what I love about Tubi too, if you want to have a bad movie night with your friends, family, whatever, there's tons of bad movies on there that you can enjoy, but they're
Yeah,
artistically bad. So,
yeah, yeah, definitely plenty of those options. Probably a few of them are mine as well.
well, Tom, how can everyone find you?
Yeah, I'm probably the best place is Instagram. So that would be at Jolliffe Productions.
Awesome, awesome. And so we're looking at 2025 for the baby in the basket. When it comes out, definitely come back on and promote. I would like to definitely talk to you about the movie. And
Yeah,
thank you for coming.
absolutely.
Thank you
Yeah,
for coming.
no, thanks for having me. It's good to have a chat.
You too. All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce. I'm gonna see you guys next time. Take care.